the overwhelming majority of students in this country in the K-12 educational setting and university setting coincide with what is normal, and I would say ideal, in the sense that it works the best. And so those laws, I think, are an attempt, if we get them through and the president can sign them, start to return that to our schools, and I think promotes the security, safety, and in the area of schools sports, it gives Title IX the opportunity. One of the key reasons is put in place so that girls and women could compete against girls and women and set records that were substantiated by girls and women. It could be challenged by girls and women in the future and could not be taken over by a male. I don't use biological male. Hope you forgive me. I think there are male and female, just like our president said, which is the way we act treated as well. So those are the things they're taking now. With a 60-vote requirement in the Senate, we may not get all of those through. But we're still talking about it. We're still talking common sense. And I think the general public has a chance through media sources and others to debate that as well. And hopefully with that debate, ultimately, and seeing the outcomes in certain cases that go wrong when we don't follow the common sense, and that we don't follow science with X's and Y's and other things, ultimately, through the course of time, we'll be able to turn it back. But this has been working in the system for quite some time. It won't change. We won't change everything overnight. But by your voices, the voices in Congress, the bills that we pass, the voices in our educational institutions who call me from the other side of what's being reported as normalcy now, and I'm finding out those people are still in our educational settings. Teachers, superintendents, principals, students, parents who are saying, let's get back to what is normal and what functions well and makes this country capable of providing an education that's second to none. I think in the end, we'll see massive changes begin to develop.
What you'd like to see from Congress, what you'd like to see from an administration that actually does return your phone call and does seem interested in having parents be an active part of this conversation.
We saw so much administrative and agency overreach. I think we saw, unfortunately, we've seen so much of, the Supreme Court has reined in through Walberg and stuff. But the Obama administration and the Biden administration love to rule through their dear colleague letters, right? I mean, I think back to President Obama saying, I can get whatever I want done with a pen and a phone. That's not how we do things in this country. We are a nation of laws. And so to actually start to legislate on things like the Deterrent Act, on foreign funding, I mean, to really rein in some of these threats that, when I think back last session, the Senate helped. They only did one hearing at the very, very end because Bernie Sanders just didn't care about it. I mean, things like that are a real slap in the face as American school children have been struggling. The fact that they didn't even pass an expansion of Title VI, which had been on the table since the end of the first Trump administration, in the face of October 7th, is appalling. If there is what the American people were clamoring for, we want our kids to learn again. We want our kids to be back in school. And we were told, sit down, shut up, we got this. They quite obviously didn't. And so it's a little bit frightening, honestly, that it had gotten to such an extent where they really thought that they knew better than we did how to run our lives, how to raise our children. I mean, I think around the midterms, the Michigan Democratic Party had this Facebook post that they had to take down in shame. It said, the purpose of public education is to teach children what society needs them to know. And implicit in that is, we know better than you do with your guns and your God, how to raise your children. How dare you, over my dead body, you tell me how to raise my children. And I think, that's where we saw these mama bears and papa bears over the past couple of years, or Wolverines as it may be, coming out of the woodwork and saying, no, not this time, never again.
At the Women and Girls Sports Executive Order, everyone's seen the image of him surrounded by the female college athletes, and this has been an issue that he's been working on a lot. And to that end, where does PDE fit in with, I think you were right talking about the Trump administration wanting to go head to toe with some of these state and local education districts that are pushing back on his Women and Girls Sports Executive Order. How do you guys fit into that realm there?
I mean, I've been working on Title IX since a very long time ago, before most of those little girls were born, from back when I was at the Independent Women's Forum. But we have been documenting the parental exclusion policies, which is one element of Title IX, the coursive language is of the pronouns and things like that, which is also A lot of schools passed overbroad harassment and speech policies. We had some open litigation on that in Ohio, because they're trying to, and also New York State, because they're trying to force people to say things that they don't believe in under the guise of inclusivity, under the guise of trying to be, fair and not be gender discriminatory, except they are being gender discriminatory. So it's a real through the looking glass thing. But it has been coming at it from a couple angles. And it is probably, over the past several years, the topic that we have had the most complaints over because of parents, and also when they raise these concerns with their districts being gaslit. I mean, when we sued a district in Iowa a few years ago, some parents found out that their children were on an overnight field trip and that there was a biological girl in a hotel room with a bunch of boys, because none of the families knew about it until after the fact. And parents said, we would have loved to have known so that we could have purchased another hotel room, or we wouldn't have sent our children out of this. The district said, well, we had to because of timeline. We couldn't tell you because of FERPA, which is a privacy-related law. We couldn't tell you because of HIPAA. They love to throw out all the acronyms. But at the end of the day, what it means is that you as a parent don't have complete information to make an informed decision about the safety and security of your own child. The boy who was assigned to sleep in a bed with the girl ended up sleeping on the floor because he said he didn't want to be hit with a rape charge years later. And so things like that are really scary, where you're sort of watching this permeate into all elements of education, is something that I don't think any of us could have foreseen. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when Title IX was, we're getting rid of the boys wrestling team because there's not a girls wrestling team, right? There had to be equity on that. I mean, fast forward now to what we're seeing in schools and on athletic fields is mind-boggling. You think about the women who have been injured in the sports, the exposure incident in Arlington Public Schools recently, where there's a sex offender in a locker room with children. Things like that. This is so above and beyond what the original intent of a law written in 1972 was, to prevent discrimination on the basis of sex. It makes your head spin.
The Trump administration, the Department of Justice announced earlier this week that they're planning on visiting. We'll see what comes of the visits, but 10 colleges, I think just colleges that saw high-profile instances of anti-Semitism. What do you see as, like you were talking about earlier with how you want to work with the Department of Education? Are there plans to work with the Department of Justice in the Trump administration? What do you want to see them focusing on in the realm of parental rights?
Yeah, as the chairman alluded to, there's an Office for Civil Rights at both DOJ as well as the Education Department. The difference is that DOJ actually has teeth. And I think that's what's really exciting is when they go in, they start to look under the hood at basic problems. They're not just limited to what the complaints are that were filed before them. They can look at everything. I'm on a couple of university boards. We had a meeting a few weeks ago, and the university president was talking, said, this is like a really scary thing, because they come in and then suddenly they'll find other things that are problems. And so I think that's where we're seeing all these university administrations really realize, oh crap, I have to get my house in order, because they come in and they're going to find a lot of nonsense. So I think that kind of threat of DOJ coming in, doing what's called the death penalty, is something that's really scary. The Education Department, what they have is they can recommend a loss of federal funding. This has never actually happened. In Title IX, it was threatened against a couple of universities. During the Obama administration, that's what scared a lot of universities into, frankly, sacrificing the First Amendment on the ultra pedo line. That's why we saw so many schools for so long say, you told the dirty joke, I'm sorry, you're suspended, right? I mean, they rake kids over the coal, no due process, et cetera, et cetera. For Title VI, for race and national origin investigations, the death penalty has not yet been threatened. And what is interesting with all the executive orders that have come out recently is we have seen a lot of the professional associations say, you know what, you guys, it's going to take forever to lose federal funding. You don't even have to comply right now. Just keep doing your inclusion work. That came from the superintendents. It's come from the American Council on Education. It's come from the Association of Governing Boards. This is not an administration that I would mess around and find out with. I don't want to play chicken with Ken Bondi. I certainly don't want to play chicken with Donald Trump. And I do think probably at some point they will have to wave a bloody scalp or two and make an example of some of these people, and really scare the other ones who are trying to #resist into actually complying with the law.
You hear a lot less about Randy Weingarten now than you did when Biden was running the country and some of. What is sort of next for them? Where are they trying to position themselves in the second Trump administration, and where are you guys potentially going head to head now that your allies are in the White House?
I mean, I think she sees herself as queen of love else. Tomorrow they're launching 100 days of resistance, actually. So they'll have events around the country. I'm sure our children will be sacrificed on the altar of their activism as they try and shut things down. Jeffrey point, we care about kids so much, they're not going to learn. I have been watching with some sickness, some kind of, it's appalling to watch the rise, the Educators for Palestine caucus over the past couple of years in their annual meeting. The NEA used to put all of their resolutions that they would vote on for their big summer conference online. And then when parents were paying attention and saying, oh, it's like you guys voted down that one about student excellence, but you voted through all this stuff about like Palestine and abortion. That's super weird. Then they took all of their resolutions off being on the internet. For the past couple of years, it's been 2 or 3 a year about Palestine. This past year, it actually was up to 10. And so I think like GAT is growing in momentum. But it is the fixation on identity politics at the expense of student achievement is something that is astonishing to me. And I don't know why more average teachers have not realized that their leadership doesn't care about them. They care about their money and their power. You look at the initiatives that are pushed by national union leadership, be it restorative justice, which is basically like Pug a Thud, where we're not going to punish anybody for anything. These students that are punching teachers in the face, that's because students have seen over the years that they will not be held accountable for their actions. If you are trying to have a healing circle and go and have a conversation with a student, they realize I can just continue to act up badly. Nothing will ever happen to me. I won't be suspended. I won't be expelled. I'll just go back in the classroom and get to keep disrupting. That hurts everyone. It doesn't just hurt the teacher that gets punched. It doesn't just hurt the students. It actually interrupts the learning for a classroom full of 30 kids. And so things like that, where that is the activism that your union leadership is funding and pushing at a national level, it's ruining your day-to-day experience and it's diminishing the quality of your life. And so I think that there's a real opportunity to start to peel members off because their money is being used against them.
Your organization's approach changing now that Trump is president again?
Well, it's so funny. They didn't really reach out to us at all over the past 4 years. When we did the whole expose of the National School Boards Association, right after that, they propped up Potemkin Village. It was their family engagement council, family and parent engagement council. And we pointed out in partnership with our friends at America First Legal that this was actually a violation of the Federal Agency Commission Act, the FACA, because they have to notify Congress. They have to actually have electrical balance on it. And we said, we would love to be on this. We would love to provide another point of view. The 15 groups you have, it turns out almost all the leadership, they were all Democratic Party donors. They were all really on your team. And what turned out is that through the course of litigation, they shut it down. They would rather only have a rubber stamp condition or nothing rather than have intellectual diversity. And so I'm so excited about soon to be Secretary McMahon, President Trump, because as you have seen at these EO signings of the various things, they're actually listening to consumers. They actually consider us a part of the puzzle. It's not just Randy Weingarten and Becky Kringle having a direct, bat phone to the Oval Office. It's people like us saying, no, this is what I want for my education. And what we have found over the past couple of years is that parents want different things for their children. I mean, we have seen people who have sent their kids to, like LeBron James' charter school in Columbus, Ohio. Schools are not, frankly, any better than they are in Columbus public city schools, but people are still sending their kids there. Why? Because it's actually safer than some of the public schools. That's a very personal decision that some people have. I mean, you see some people who have chosen to homeschool over the past couple of years, send their kids to parochial school or other private schools that comport with their values. It's like people are realizing now. And I think that was something else that we had during the pandemic when schools were closed, is parents suddenly realized, really in stark contrast, that children have different learning styles. My daughter is very artistic. She loves to draw. My son likes to sit and read. And so just those are different learning styles. And the system that we have right now is very one size fits all. And my daughter got in trouble a couple years ago because she's gifted and she would get bored. She finished her work early. And when I did the parent-teacher conference, the teacher said she asked a lot of questions, said, it sounds like her curiosity is a hassle for you. And that's things like that where when you're managing an over large classroom, and it just, I think we've put teachers in a difficult position as well. But this administration, I think we look forward to supporting their efforts and then also providing a conduit to them of what we're hearing from parents on the ground.
What are ways that via PDE, parents who read the coverage that will come of this, watch this live stream, et cetera, see you on TV, how can they get in touch with your organization to raise a red flag, pun slightly intended for you, about things that are going on in their school, whether it's funding from Communist China, gender ideology, critical race theory, things like that? And then how do you then figure out which are the school districts to really spotlight in America?
I mean, we're very lucky in that we have built a tremendous network of parents and parent activists and parent organizations over the past 4 years. As of today, we work with about 375 parent groups across the country at different levels of sophistication. Some have a C3 and a C4 and a PAC. Some are just 10 moms with a Facebook group. But it's terrific because I think these parents are like awake, not woke, where they have sort of been enlightened as to what's going on in their schools. We have people who send us stuff through our tip line. When we launched, I mean, we were getting 50 to 200 tips a week from across the country, which is astonishing. Not all the tips panned out. I mean, there was a guy at the beginning. He was like some poor high school student in Oklahoma. And for every day for 2 weeks, he would say, I have to watch CNN in class. I'm like, dude, I get it, man. I don't want to watch that either, but I can't do anything about that. But there are some where, we ask people to send us back up. I'm not just going to go and make unsubstantiated allegations. I don't want to be sued for defamation. I'm pretty sure my lawyers don't want me to either. But often where there's smoke, there's fire. And so somebody will send us something. I have a terrific investigative team. We'll look into reports, and sometimes we'll see something, well, that's a weird policy, or, you can just do a search on some of these district sites for equity or whatever else, and you'll see, wow, there's a lot of crazy going on. And so I think people have really realized that, as we have watched the journalism industry collapse, aside from the Great Washington Reporter, people had realized that they have to do this on their own. I mean, I think that is kind of one of the nice parts of the past 4 years is the legacy media has so beclouded themselves that people have realized, I'm just going to have to do it myself. And so we have seen parent groups that will go to a school board meeting, or they will, look through school board minutes on board docs and see what they're voting on and what's taking place, and actually reporting out the truth of what's going on. So I think we're kind of in our see something, say something era. So we encourage people to send stuff to us, through our website or through social media as well.